I'm Cassie Cressman, and I am doing the assignment for the Reflection 2 case study. I am here with Trevor Cressman, who is my husband, but who is also somebody who has strongly inspired me to be a teacher. So I'm going to be interviewing him today with some questions, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, and just so you know, this is for my class.
Hi, Anita.
Okay, so first question, how do you get students excited about learning?
Relationships. Having a good relationship with the students to where instead of doing work from you, they want to do work for you. And when you are excited and passionate about it, they get excited and passionate about it. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, awesome. What is the best advice you ever got about teaching, and perhaps the worst as well?
Best advice, 2 pieces. Relationships are important. Kind of already touched on that. Beg, borrow, and steal. So don't be afraid to, borrow lessons and activities and stuff from other teachers. Perhaps the worst advice, that's hard. Worst advice, probably some of the lesson plans we did in college was not terribly helpful because you don't have time to do all of that stuff. So you don't have to put that in the paper, but honestly, this is the best advice is beg, borrow, steal. Borrow, because you don't have time, especially when you're teaching a small school where you're teaching 6 separate lessons a day. You don't have time to go through and do new lessons every day. Sometimes you have to borrow from somebody else and who's already done something successful or they're making it work in their classroom. So,
all right. How do you go about forming a learning community within your classroom?
Relationships. You got to make sure that they trust you, that they want to learn for you, that they feel that it's safe to learn. If they don't feel like it's safe to be wrong sometimes, no matter what you do, you will not have a good learning community in your classroom.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, what is the best thing you do as a teacher?
Graduation. And it's not just because I get to get rid of kids. Because you get to kind of reflect on where they were and where they are now. You don't go into teaching unless you love kids. And the best part of loving kids is seeing how they grow.
Okay. What blocks people from becoming a good teacher?
Not being flexible. You have to be willing to adjust. You have to be willing to, you're going to do a lesson one year and the class is going to get it. You're going to do the exact same lesson the next year and they will not understand a thing. And so you have to be flexible. Sometimes you have to reteach things. Sometimes you're going to get kids, you have a class that's really slow or a class that's really advanced. You have to be flexible. You're going to have sporting events and assemblies and parent problems and all things, and it's going to mess with you. And if you're not flexible, you're not going to be a good teacher.
Okay. If you were mentoring a new teacher, what specific advice would you give?
Be flexible. That's huge. Relationships are huge. Don't fret about your first few years. Yeah, they're gonna be tough, but you're gonna find that every teacher, no matter how prepared they are, feels very overwhelmed their first couple of years because you don't know what you're doing. After your first couple of years, it gets a lot easier. It's still tough, but you get feeling like you know what you're doing, and a lot of that overwhelm just comes from not feeling like you know how to be a teacher, or like what you're doing.
Yeah. Why do you think some teachers seem to burn out, and can it be prevented?
This question I might have answered differently before COVID, but I think that teacher burnout is very complex, and it has all sorts of reasons. Overworked, underpaid, teachers are overtiming it all the time, but I think a lot of the reason that teacher burnout happens is because there's not a lot of good support for teachers. I joke all the time about as a teacher, I love teacher in-service days because I finally get to talk to adults. You spend all of your time talking to kids, you don't get to interact with other professionals very often. So how can it be prevented is more opportunities for professional development, but also professional support. opportunities to interact with other adults that are going to help you and support you and kind of guide you. Obviously pay helps. You could put up with anything for enough pay probably. But I think that's a one-dimensional solution. So I think a lot of it comes with supporting our teachers. I have parents that sometimes they make my day when they bring me a bottle of water or a cupcake. And that, that's always nice from parents. And that's that's a small gesture of support, but it does help, So those kind of things, just supporting teachers better.
Awesome. In your experience, how long does it take to become a good teacher?
A lifetime. Here's why. I think you're always learning. You're always growing. If you think that you're a good and effective teacher, you still have some more to learn. Now, to be a good teacher, I think it takes a couple of years to really, to know what you're doing a little bit. Mm-hmm. But like this year, this is my 4th or 5th year. And I've completely scrapped my 5th grade curriculum and I'm restarting because I just haven't liked it. And so I'm redoing it all from the ground up this whole year. I think you're always getting better.
Yeah, for sure. What do you do to make sure you stay current in the field?
Professional development opportunities when you can.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the biggest change is technology, integrating technology naturally.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people use technology, but they don't make it seamless. There are ways to integrate technology in a way that it isn't just a fluke or a distraction or a special day. It's seamless, and I think when that's a big thing is integrating technology, but also kind of with that flexibility thing, listening to other teachers, watching other teachers, and always being willing to change.
And I think this is the last question. What do you do to make sure you continue to be an excellent teacher?
Every year I always make sure that I learn about my new students, parents, families, stuff like that. Relationships are huge. Building relationships constantly. Not getting caught up in the numbers and the standardized testing and the monotony of teaching sometimes. Remembering that they're little people and that you're preparing little people. And, to be an excellent teacher, you've got to be an excellent student. So you can't stop learning. Because if you stop learning and if you think that you know everything, you think that you are willing to, I've got it, I know everything I need to be a teacher, you're wrong. You got to be a student. You got to learn the stuff. There's still things in science that I teach that I'm learning. So be a good student to be an excellent teacher.
Yeah. I'm going to add a question here.
Okay.
It's not on the list.
Oh, no.
So I know that you have students and parents all the time that will say that your class is their favorite or that you're their favorite teacher. And what do you think contributes to that the most?
I am very personal with my students. I'm not afraid to, and my administrators maybe don't like it every day, but I'm not afraid to back off of standards and expectations sometimes to have a moment of humanity with the kids. A lot of the kids make fun of it because they talk about life lessons with Mr. C, where we'll spend an entire hour instead of doing our lesson. We will spend our entire hour talking about conflict resolution or talking about anxiety management or stress management. Maybe we'll talk about something that's going on in the world. And I remember there was a day that there was a school shooting at a high school, and they heard about it, and they started asking questions about how could people do things. And we started talking about the world's jacked up, but how do we as people support each other? And just life lessons. And I think what happens is when you get really personal, down to earth with these kids, they open up to you, they enjoy it, and then that lesson that they're doing, and I mentioned this earlier, it's not that they're doing a lesson from you or a test from you. They don't have homework from that class. They're doing it for you. They want to succeed for you. They want to do well. They want to impress you. They want to shock you with their knowledge. I have some kids who all the time, they'll come to class and they'll be like, last night I learned about this. And I'm like, that is awesome. And so that helps because when they they want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Makes all the difference in the world. And, you know, I think part of the reason it helps that I'm one of their favorite teachers is, you know, I get a fun subject, science. You know, it's always fun to teach science. But I think you can make any subject fun with good relationships with the kids to where they want to be. You can be their friend, but you while also retaining that boundary of being a professional. And so I think that's important.
So do you think that, or has it ever happened where, because you guys take more time in classes sometimes to talk about life lessons with Mr. Cressman, does that ever affect like test scores, or do your test scores remain pretty high?
I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but our test scores have gone up since I've been there. And I attribute that to, I think that when students want to be in school
Mm-hmm.
and they want to learn, they're more receptive to learning. Even if you spend some days doing life lessons or you spend a day talking about football, you know, they come to class the next day, and yeah, you wasted a lesson day yesterday. They come to class this next day, and they love the class, so now they retain double the information that day. So you don't have to spend as much time reteaching or anything. And, you know, I don't have any data to prove that. But I think, you know, our test scores have been good every year that I've been there. Haven't had a bad year yet. This last year with COVID, we thought it was going to be rough. We were on point. We were at the same point we've been. So I don't think there's any negatives to it. Now, if you do it every day, they're not going to learn science. But, you know, doing it every once in a while. We do Monday morning debrief where they tell me about their weekend for 15 minutes of class. It's a silly thing, but, you know, I have fifth graders, and in that 15 minutes, they're going to tell me about their weekend. And if I don't take that 15 minutes, they're probably going to take that 15 minutes somewhere else in class anyway to tell me. So, you know, when they're excited, they learn better. And when they learn better, their test scores are good, all that kind of stuff. So.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I think that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Love you, babe.
Love you too.
Bye, Anita.